Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time on this. Oh my God, I forgot to put my backdrop up. Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time, where I have my bathrobe hanging off the back of my office chair and a janky looking backdrop in front of me. That's fine. You're not here for the aesthetics necessarily. Ooh, that might even be worse. There we go. How about that? We are always happy to have your participation. And I'm sure that many of you are less than satisfied with the way that the last 24 hours have gone. You have missed out on the opportunity to hire John Harbaugh. You thought that you were going to be in the room at the very least, but John Harbaugh did not do you that courtesy. He decided to accept the job at like 3 or 4 hours after we wrapped up primetime last night, before the Titans, including Amy Adams-Strunk, were set to fly to Baltimore, to his home, to conduct the interview in person with a contract prepared to hire him on the spot. They get snubbed by John Harbaugh, and we can talk about all the reasons why if you guys really want to. But we also have to discuss the idea of the pivot. How the hell are they going to pivot at this point in time? What are they going to do? Is it all well and good because there are still candidates out there? And what is the most likely pivot that you would like to make? Oh, you guys want the red light glasses back? That's fine. They're sitting right here on my desk. We are happy to do it. I think it makes me look a little bit, it's like, I guess the Mike McDaniel look is kind of Coke dealer-esque, but it is a little bit Mike McDaniel / Coke dealer, even though these are very effective. We enjoy the blue light glasses very much. Either way, we are going to talk about the pivot and where they go after the snub. And do you think they were even snubbed in the first place? Or do you really believe, are you somebody who was like, oh, John Harbaugh definitely wants this job? And then when you saw that he didn't want anything to do with you, so much so that he was not even willing to have you fly to his home, are you somebody who said, well, I didn't want him anyway. You can't fire me. I quit. That kind of particular person, because I feel like I know a lot of you who will tell me that you didn't want John Harbaugh or you didn't think it was real in the first place were yelling at me about giving the Titans a 3.5% chance to land John Harbaugh in the first place. I even upped my number to 10, and they still couldn't even get in the room at that point in time. So we will discuss these things together, and we will do a little weekend bounce back before I send you on your merry way for the end of the primetime week, though we will still have a radio show with you guys tomorrow. Ghost on YouTube says, like the show if you want them glasses to stay on every primetime show. Is this a primetime-esque look? Is it too much if I put the crown on too, or is the crown or the glasses sufficient at this point in time? I wear these things all around the house anyway, so I might as well keep them on during primetime. In fact, this makes me able to do primetime better because I've got two giant set lights glaring at me. And this, hell, you can see them in the reflection of my glasses. We will be happy to do this for you if that is something that you would like. A Ghost also says that the crown is necessary. I don't know. The crown feels like it's for special occasions. I feel like I cheapen the crown if I wear it for every primetime show. And also he adds a shirtless Bert. So all of these things that you normally get, I suppose we could do for you from time to time. Either way, share the broadcast around Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch, wherever you are spending your precious and valuable time with us. We do appreciate your participation. Easy for me to say. Like the show wherever you are streaming tonight. Text the link to a friend. It's going to be a big off season. We expect to have a coach in place, I would say. And if it's the 15th today and the Senior Bowl is at the end of the month, I really hope they don't have a coach by the time we do Senior Bowl, because I was really hoping to not go to Mobile this year. And I probably would just go for the day because there would be coaching media availability that I would drag my ass down to Mobile, Alabama for. That seems excessive. So I'm actively rooting against you having a coach in the next couple of weeks just for my own personal logistical reasons, because I'm going to go to Super Bowl for probably at least a day this week, and I would like to not do Mobile in between, but it's fine. I know you want your coach, and I know that there are plenty of candidates for you to pick from. Share the broadcast around. Like I mentioned, we'll go ahead and get this thing rolling. Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time from the T-Dot Studios, which I just realized that I am using the incorrect backdrop to indicate that we are broadcasting to you from the T-Dot Studios. I'm your host, Buck Rising, and I'm proud as always to be presented by you. There we go. the wonderful people at the Tennessee Department of Transportation, where TDOT reminds you that you can be a part of the solution to end littering at nobodytrashestn.com. By Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer, online at tworiversford.com. Quality, American-made Ford vehicles and award-winning customer service is what they offer. Go to Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet or online, like I mentioned. By Simon Says Nashville, a premier men's clothing spot in Nashville, the premier clothing spot in Nashville is Simon Says. You can check out their inventory online at simonsaysnashville.com. And TrueMav Fitness, the best workout in Middle Tennessee is TrueMav Fitness. I have a special message to pass on from TrueMav at the end of the show because we are very grateful for them, and they have done so right by us these last, 3.5 years that we've had them a part of the show, and they are closing their doors at week's end, and we have tremendous respect for the work that TrueMav and Worth Campbell have done. Worth is going to be on to bigger and better things at this point in time, but I know that the participation of you guys at TrueMav has meant a lot to him, and we have certainly appreciated the way that they have supported the show over these last 3.5 years. Good 7-year run by TrueMav. But you can still get your workout free until the end of the week. I'm going tomorrow, and their last day open is on Sunday, of which I will also be at because I have my Sundays free now. Either way. So, since we've last met, it feels like a million different things have happened, but really the only thing that's changed is that John Harbaugh is not going to interview for your job because he's going to be the next head coach of the New York Giants. And the question that I would ask you on that front, your Two Rivers Ford take, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch, is that the circumstance for the Tennessee Titans, as you look at it, for you as a Titans fan, do you feel that the Titans were snubbed by John Harbaugh? And why, if you are somebody who feels that the Titans were snubbed by John Harbaugh, why do you think they couldn't even get in the room with the best head coaching candidate on the market? Now, you could say, and this is the moral victory argument. Well, you could say that they got closer than anybody named the Giants did. That they would, or they got closer than anybody not named the Giants did, and that they were in the running for the most attractive head coaching candidate, but they just couldn't get close enough, and that the New York Giants job is so much better than the Tennessee Titans job that he would be fool to take it. And if I was the Giants, my argument would be, really, John, you're going to go spend the rest of your career in Tennessee as opposed to being the head coach of the New York Football Giants, one of the most legendary franchises in football. Yeah, we may not have had our best years, but you can be a part of the thing that turns us around. You can be a legend forever if you win in New York. What are you going to be in Tennessee? You're going to be no primetime games, no Thursday night football. People are going to only notice you when Cam Ward does some Will Levis type stuff, or your quarterback's being turned into a meme. Really? You're going to go spend the end of your career in Tennessee? I think not. Sign here, please. So, fair or foul, did John Harbaugh snub the Tennessee Titans? That's your Two Rivers Ford take as we talk about this together. Earl Moran said Harbaugh on Facebook, where you can interact, of course, says Harbaugh had his mind already made up if it lines up. If it lines up, what do you mean if it lines up at this point in time? I don't think that he had his mind necessarily made up. I think that that's why the Giants kept him for an additional 2 hours to try and make sure that they made up his mind for him, essentially. And again, it is a better job. Titans fan 81 says define snub. Well, I mean, the definition of snubbed is easy. Did he disrespect them by agreeing to an interview that they were prepared to fly up for and then decide to cancel it at literally the 11th hour? It was like 15 minutes before 11 p.m. last night that John Harbaugh canceled his meeting, his in-person meeting, where the Titans, including Amy Adams-Strunk, the owner of the franchise, Mike Morganzi, the general manager, and Chad Brinker, the president of football ops, were going to fly to his home to offer him the job, to interview him, but also with a contract in hand to offer him the job because they wanted John Harbaugh that badly. They were prepared to pay $20 million just as the Giants did. They were prepared to make certain concessions, just as the Giants in all likelihood will. We'll see what becomes of Joe Shane. But yeah, did they snub the Titans? Did he snub the Titans by agreeing to the interview and then literally at the 11th hour being like, I'm good. I'm all set. at this point in time. And Titans fan 81, who just made that comment, says, I think it's somewhat unprofessional. Okay, that's not the question that I'm asking you. Did he snub the Titans? Yes or no? Fair or foul? In the comment section. It's your Two Rivers Ford take, as always, made possible by the South's most trusted Ford dealer, Two Rivers Ford, where you can go for routine maintenance, where you can go to their award-winning service department, where you can experience their award-winning customer service for yourself. That's why they've been in business for over 4 decades. It's why they're the South's most trusted Ford dealer. In fact, who's FaceTiming me right now? No, thank you. Not at this particular moment. That's actually a call that I would take under normal circumstances, but I will circle back to that because that is an interesting football call that I might take. What is also interesting is the fact that Two Rivers Ford always offers you the best and most competitive prices and the best financing opportunities available. Go to Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet or online at tworiversford.com for more details. I just got a wow text messages because I declined a very important football related FaceTime. So I'm going to have to take a screenshot of the fact that we're doing prime time right now to send to this person and then deal with them at a later date. All right. The primetime audience is important, although this call is something that I would like to circle back to because there are many important football conversations to be had at this time of year. I'll keep you guys updated if I do learn anything from this call, or maybe I won't because some of this information is probably not something that I can share. Anyway, so as we look at the situation for the Titans, fair or foul, did John Harbaugh snub the Titans? So we see Titans fan 81 who made the comment earlier saying foul. Corey Smith says foul, no snub. The Giants just did what they had to do to not give anyone a chance to steal him. They handled their business, and that's completely fair. I think that is also the perspective that you could take, that the Giants, just knew what they wanted and knocked this shit out. And we're prepared to do everything within their power. In fact, the Titans, to the point, we're ready to handle business. And listen again. It's a moral victory argument, but I do give them a ton of credit for committing. That they were ready. That Amy was ready to fly up there and get this shit done. But I also think that this is a point worth making. Okay, I don't know, for example, how many NFL owners you could name who would be willing, one, to fly to a coach's home to do an interview in person at their own expense on their own personal jet, and who would get an interview scheduled with a coach, whomever that coach might be. Now, this is a Super Bowl champion coach and somebody who was tenured in the league for 18 years in his particular position. But I don't know how many people, how many owners would not even be able to get in the room by being willing to fly up there. And I don't think that that's exclusively an indictment of Amy Adams Strunk. For example, if Michael Bidwell of the Cardinals had an interview scheduled with John Harbaugh and was prepared to fly to Baltimore on his private jet, and Harbaugh turned around and said, "Yeah, you know what, Cardinals, I'm all set." Now, if Jerry Jones had that meeting set, would Jerry Jones not be able to even get a sit down? Maybe he doesn't get the coach that he wants ultimately, but out of respect, I bet John Harbaugh takes that meeting if for no other reason. I bet that Bob Kraft gets at least in the room with him, and I think that Amy is kind of in a situation where some of that might be a consequence of the fact that the Titans aren't a respected franchise, or right now, I mean, honestly, they've never been one of these bottom feeders like they are right now. Like, that's the crazy part. I got to take these off. They're distracting me. Even though my eyes hurt so much more when I do the show without them. They've never been like such a joke the way that they have been for these last, I wouldn't say the full 4 years. I'd say probably 2.5, 3 years. Like, they are Browns, Jets level bad. They've never been bottom of the barrel, basement dweller of the league the way that they've turned themselves into these last couple of years. But I do think that they have a lot of work to do to earn that respect back. I think that they can. I think that they're capable. I think that Mike Morganzi, that guy on the graphic, is certainly capable of bringing this franchise back to a level of respectability that it had, in its grasp for several years. And like I said, they've had, middling years, and they've had like one bad year in 14, 15 was bad too, 14 and 15. So they've had a similar situation, but never where they felt so much like a joke the way that they have these last 2 years. And I think they're actively working on that, to their credit, as they should, because they're just going to continue to be a joke if they don't get these things right. But I think that she's got a lot of work to do to get this place to a point where you have to if Amy Adams Strunk schedules the meeting, you're going to respect Amy Adams Strunk by taking that meeting at the very least. Ann says, hot take. I don't want a head coach who finds us a bottom feeder shit organization. Yeah, that's fine. I just, I don't think that anybody who's interviewing for your job, like, I don't know that I'm sure John Harbaugh has respect for the Titans at one point, but I think John Harbaugh had respect for the Mike Vrabel Titans. I don't think that John Harbaugh looks at the Amy Adams Strunk Titans with that same level of respect at this point in time. In fact, I'm certain, and I don't know this to be a fact, I suppose I could make a call and find out whether John Harbaugh did talk to Mike Vrabel about this as a job, but I'm certain what I know about Mike is that Mike would not recommend in glowing terms Amy Adams Strunk. Now, I would not speak for him on that particular front, and I'm sure that publicly, he has been publicly way more diplomatic about Amy than I know that relationship actually is. But I'm sure John Harbaugh called around the league and was like, hey, what's going on over there? And I'm sure he didn't get glowing reviews. Now, again, that's going to take them years to work their way back up at this point in time. MB says, honestly, no one knows what actual NFL people think of each franchise. Oh, no, that's not true. I absolutely do. I talk to them every day. I've talked to multiple of your former coaching staffs. I know many of them who are scattered elsewhere around the league. I know some who are working in better places. I know a few who are not working in better places. And I know that a lot of people have a similar opinion of the way that Amy Adams Strunk has turned this thing down. I know what people think about the Titans. That much I do know, because I'm not like the only person who's comfortable being hypercritical of the Tennessee Titans, but I get a lot of people league wide who reach out to me about the Tennessee Titans being like, hey, what is going on over there? Why are they so bad at this? And then, I have some very honest conversations that are not all for air about why the hell they look the way that they do and why people are largely in the right to think of them what they do, and why this thing needs Mike Borgonzi to be in charge of it, because he is now the adult in the room on a variety of different fronts at this point in time. Ryan Field says, Buck never reads my comments and I stay commenting. Oops, I read one. You better make some good ones, because now if I see a shitty one again, I probably won't read it. Anyway, I think that as we look at this fair or foul, did John Harbaugh snub the Titans? I'm going to say fair, it's a snub, because I think that it's not uncommon that people would look at the Tennessee Titans organization or any job opportunity and be like, hey, I don't want to waste your time. I appreciate it. I certainly was willing to take the interview on the front end, but I'm pretty comfortable with the idea that I'm making the right decision, and I know what you have versus what the Giants have. And while I do, think a lot of Cam Ward and think a lot of Mike Borgonzi, I just don't want to waste your time. I don't think that's necessarily a snub, but I do think that this is a snub. I think that if Amy Adams Strunk, an owner, is willing to get on her own plane, to fly from Houston to Nashville, pick up her executives, then fly her and her executives to Baltimore with a contract to hire a coach, and that coach calls again at the 11th hour and says, let's not. At this point in time, I think that's a snub. I think if an owner is involved and the owner is willing to go out of his or her way, whomever that owner might be in this particular situation, it's Amy Adams Strunk. Yeah, I think that's a snub. And I think that's okay. Like, there are other candidates who can do a good job here. I'm not in love with the Mike McCarthy idea. I think if you're going to go that direction, like stabilizing force, I'd rather you do it with a bit of a fresher face. I know that John Harbaugh and Mike McCarthy and Sean Payton basically all have the same resume on paper. I don't view Mike McCarthy in the same way that I do those other two, even though he is a Super Bowl champion. He has coached winning teams for both the Cowboys and the Green Bay Packers. I also think that this is the worst roster. If you thought that Mike Vrabel inherited good rosters, I would present to you Mike McCarthy with both the Cowboys and the Packers. And while I do not discount Mike McCarthy's role in that for a period of time, I do think that this would be the worst roster that 62-year-old Mike McCarthy has ever taken over. And I don't love the idea of a 62-year-old who wants his third NFL job in a way that nobody gets a third NFL job. I love the idea of turning all these things over to him at this point in time. Ann says, team, not an old white guy. Well, I don't care about that. I don't care what color they are. I just care that they're the best candidate for the job. And if that is Mike McCarthy, then that's fine. I just don't necessarily like, I wasn't opposed. I thought the Pete Carroll thing was questionable because he's, I mean, what is he, 9 years older than McCarthy and Harbaugh? He's 73, going to be 74. I struggle with the idea of Pete Carroll being a part of a long-term turnaround in Vegas, and it didn't work, but not, I don't necessarily think because of Pete Carroll. I just think there's a lot of things that went wrong in Vegas last year. And I don't think that that should be held against Mike McCarthy. I don't think he would make those. I don't know that he would make those same mistakes definitively one way or the other. Earl Moran says, okay, Buck, let's have your list. Who do you like? Okay. Of the candidates, we can do exactly that. I will give you mine here in just a second, right after I remind you the Primetime program made possible by the Tennessee Department of Transportation, where TDOT reminds you that nobody trashes Tennessee. It's a great initiative to be a part of. It is an awesome service that you can do for your community to participate in the solution to end littering and to do it in a fun and eco-friendly way. Good for your community, good for the environment, good for the state of Tennessee. NobodyTrashesTN.com is where you can find out all about their great volunteer opportunities and how you can organize your cleanup opportunities yourself if you are so inclined. So, as we look at the list of people who will continue to interview for the Tennessee Titans job, I will give you. So, how many did you ask me for? Did you ask me for a specific number, like the top 4 or something like that? Is that what I said? At this point in time, let's see. Let's have your list. Who do you like? Okay. So no number specifically requested, but let's go top 4 right now. At number 4, so we'll work back to front. I like the idea of Jesse Minter. I like Jesse Minter, the Los Angeles Chargers defensive coordinator. I think that, one, he's already interviewed with the Titans. There are some similarities. There are some connections, rather, to John Harbaugh and Jim Harbaugh and Mike McDonald, which does not necessarily mean that he'll be a success, but that he knows what success and what a head coach is supposed to look like, that he will have some level of understanding coming into this situation that will at least equip him for this job, that he will have those kind of people as role models and as people he looks up to lean on. I also far more favor the idea of a defensive-minded head coach for any franchise, because I like the idea of being aggressive, of being attacking. Philosophically, I don't think that job is exclusively an X's and O's job. In fact, I think it's, I wouldn't say it's a small part of it, but I think it's a far smaller part of it than people want to make it. In that circumstance, I think there's also a chance that you may be able to retain Denard Wilson, because there are some similar schematic tendencies as somebody who has worked for both the Chargers and Michigan and looks at those defenses, who's familiar with those kind of personnel groupings, who is well regarded and who looks to be an ascending candidate. So I would put Jesse Minter number 4. At number 3, I would put Mike McCarthy there. I think that the Mike McCarthy thing is not bad by any stretch of the imagination. He does have play calling and CEO ability, right? He's managed very difficult situations. Aaron Rodgers is not an easy situation to manage. You have a circumstance with the Dallas Cowboys where Jerry Jones is not easy to work around necessarily, and Mike McCarthy did it in stride. He's got 10 top 5 scoring offenses in the last 18 years. I would not want him necessarily to be the play caller. I don't think he's bad or anything like that, and I don't know enough about football to say that he's an older coach who's outdated, but I would like somebody to take that responsibility off his plate. So I would put Mike McCarthy at 3 in this particular situation. I would put Vance Joseph at number 2, somebody who has head coaching experience, again, defensive-minded background, somebody who I'd be very curious to see what mistakes he felt like he made in his first time around as a former head coach and how he would go about correcting those things. League thinks very, very highly of him. And the head coaching experience is not impressive. But guys, I need you to keep this in mind. For those of you who wanted John Harbaugh or Robert Saleh or Mike McDonald or Mike McDaniel, rather, not McDonald. Mike, of course, you would like Mike McDonald. Mike McDaniel in these particular situations is just because they failed in their first attempt doesn't mean that they can't learn and get better from it. Just because the Titans failed at their last couple attempts to get this right doesn't mean that they can't learn and get better from it. So I like Vance Joseph. Again, I like the defensive mindset. I like what his experience brings. Again, I value that experience more than anything else for this particular job. And I would be very curious to see what the staff would look like under those. And then number one for me would be Matt Nagy. Now, I completely understand as why that is not, desirable to you. But it's for me, it's not necessarily about what I like or how attractive, not literally attractive. I mean, I guess I don't know how many of them are literally attractive, but as far as their resumes, it's not necessarily about what I would most want in a coach. I know that doesn't really make sense, but my perspective on this is candidates who make the most sense for this particular job. And I know that you don't want to be told that you are basically Matt Nagy as a job, as Matt Nagy is as a candidate, which is a failure that's looking for another opportunity to turn things around in a meaningful way. But he has always checked the most amount of boxes from top to bottom. He has and is considered to have strong leadership traits. I don't have personal experience with him, neither do you. Many of you have thoughts on that, but his resume is more accomplished than a Mike McDaniel or a Vance Joseph, not more so than Mike McCarthy. He doesn't have a Super Bowl championship, but he has had success in the NFL before. He checks the box that is most important to me of head coaching experience. He also checks the box of being aligned with management because this is a very difficult place with very difficult office politics. And I think that the next head coach needs to be somebody who can navigate those things and also have a pre-existing relationship with the current administrators that would make this transition easier. The existing relationship with Mike Morganzi is huge to me. And as important as any of this stuff is that he's got familiarity with a quarterback who is not Cam Ward is not Patrick Mahomes, but stylistically, there are things that Cam Ward does that look like things that Patrick Mahomes does. And while I understand the criticism, or while I see a lot of the criticisms about, well, their offense has gotten worse since he's been there, and look at it's the worst year the Chiefs have had, and he's the offensive coordinator. Okay, he doesn't call plays. He doesn't draft, and Kansas City's biggest problem right now is personnel. It's offensive line. They can't run the football at this point in time. Matt Nagy can't do anything about that. That's like that's like firing. I mean, and listen, maybe Greg Roman deserved to be fired, but it's like firing Greg Roman in Los Angeles because Justin Herbert shit the bed. All right, I don't know what he's supposed to do about that. There's a lot of play calls that, for example, Ben Johnson and Greg Roman run a lot of the same stuff stylistically as an offense. And Ben Johnson is viewed very, very favorably, and all of a sudden Greg Roman is out of a job. And again, I'm not saying that on aggregate, Greg Roman maybe should have been out of a job, or that Matt Nagy shouldn't have been fired in Chicago. But he has familiarity with a quarterback who stylistically resembles your quarterback, even though I don't think Cam Ward is going to come anywhere close to Patrick Mahomes, because I don't think very many people, if anybody, could come very close to Patrick Mahomes. There is something to be said about stylistic familiarity with putting that quarterback in the best chance to succeed. Now, they have to get the personnel right. Otherwise, it doesn't matter. Also, I love the idea that he's an offensive background guy that doesn't want to call plays. I want a CEO type in this job. That is why he is the one who makes the most sense for me. So while Esco says, Buck, this list sadder than Bert's headset. I mean, what? Who else is better out there? Do you guys see the list of people that you're interviewing? Like those are the people with the most impressive resumes on that list. Mike McCarthy and Matt Nagy are two of the most impressive resumes on that list. Like I think the circumstance for Nagy is weird. I don't understand why you guys are so against it, other than like Chicago fans and Chiefs fans told you you don't want to do this. And, I love you guys, but like, I don't really care what fan bases think about what like fan bases want to fire people every minute of every day. Fan bases feel comfortable criticizing play calling when they have no concept of what goes into the plays. By the way, I don't either. I try to avoid criticizing play calling out of anything else because I don't know what the quarterback's read was, and I don't know, what the left guard was supposed to do on that particular play where the pressure got to the quarterback and all of a sudden the play's thrown off, or did the wide receiver run his route to the right depth, and was that wide receiver that he threw the ball to in the first place even the first read or the second read or the third read, or just him making a play out of structure? I think that a lot of fans are comfortable making definitive statements about things. And again, it's not that I don't doubt, like I don't doubt your intentions. I just don't think you guys, and I also feel this way about media. I don't think you guys know as much as what's good for you as the people who are running this thing. And I also think that media doesn't know as much about certain circumstances as we are comfortable speaking on. I had no idea that Chad Brinker and Mike Morganzi had a 13-year relationship. That is the reason why you landed the most attractive general manager, a big reason, a part of the reason why you landed the most attractive general manager candidate on the market. I looked at the Titans and said, that's a joke. I believe I called the position a cuck GM at the time because of how ridiculous this entire circumstance looked and what they were doing to Rand Carthon and what they hired Rand Carthon to do versus how they changed the job on Rand Carthon in real time. And I don't think Rand Carthon did a good job either. And I think he should have been fired. And I think Brian Callahan should have been fired. All these different things, but like I don't really put a lot of stock in what you guys think. If I'm being completely honest, even though I love you very much, I just think you tend to be a little bit irrational, and that's okay. That's totally okay. Fans are not supposed to be rational, and I hate that owners behave like fans a lot of time. That's why I like that Mike Borgonzi's in the position that he's in at this point, because I think you need an adult in the room. And if it was left up to me, who wanted them to hire Brian Callahan in the first place, and then immediately at the end of the 2024 season called for that man to be fired with no repercussions whatsoever, or you who want people fired at every turn, when I think a lot of times you guys tend to ignore context and just want blood, and that's okay. That's, Philadelphia does it all the time, and Philadelphia fans get what they want, and sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad. At this point in time, David Lee says, Buck, you're supposed to be our voice in the building. Oh, no, that's not true. No, I would not. I would never pretend to be that ever. One, I'm not a Titans fan. Why would I speak on behalf of you? Now, I am willing to acknowledge some of your feedback, and I'm willing to present that to the organization, and the organization is willing to have that kind of conversation in some way, shape, or form. And by the way, I do think a lot of your criticisms are fair. I just don't think that you guys definitively know as much as you say that you know about a lot of these situations. And I think that a lot of media feels that way too. Cloud House says, I mean, you should care what we think, because if we didn't care, you wouldn't have an audience. That you should care, that I should care what you think, because if you didn't care, I wouldn't have an audience. Well, yeah, that's true, but I don't have to worry about you not caring. I know that you care plenty. I know that's why you say a lot of the things that you say, but I mean, you guys are going to show up. You guys aren't here because of me. You guys are here because you're fans of the Titans and things like that, and that I spend my time exclusively, unless I'm doing the national show, talking about the Tennessee Titans. And you guys are not going to be able to go anywhere else. Like, I kind of have you a little bit hostage in these situations, because you can't turn on Sports Center and listen to Titans, and you have to go, and the radio show is just doing Titans and SEC at this point in time. Trash Can Handle says, Buck's a Colts fan. No, actually, at this point, I would say I'm a Bears fan because Kevin Byard is on the Bears. I'm a Ravens fan because Derrick Henry is on the Ravens. I am a Patriots fan because I want Mike Vrabel and all those former Titans to do well. Never been a Colts fan in my entire life. I root for the people that I have covered that have gone on to other places, because I don't root for teams. I root for people. And I want everybody here that I have worked with and has worked well with me to succeed in some form or fashion, but I'm never going to root for the Titans. I will root for all the former Titans who go on to different spots. And so far, they're doing a lot of them are doing really, really well. Ontario May says, Locked On Titans is 100% better. I don't know what that is, but you're welcome to do exactly that. That sounds like a fan podcast, and that's cool. That's not what we do here, which is why I enjoy it. I don't want to have to worry about being conflicted about whether or not I root for it. We don't have to get into like this is like almost a different version of the Lynn Jones Jags thing, which I don't want to do. I just think it's so tiresome. And I get tired of media people, shouting at fans being like, that's not the place to do these things. And I also don't love what Lynn Jones did, but like, I don't want to get into another version of that conversation. My point is at this point in time that there are a lot of things that fans throw out into the ether that I think are nonsense. And there's a lot of things that media people throw out into the ether that I think are nonsense. At the end of the day, we are not all privy to a lot of the information that you would need to have to be able to make the actual decisions that these people are making. Now, again, you can have all the information in the world and still make the wrong decisions. Amy Adams Strunk has done it multiple times. I think that plenty of good organizations have made bad decisions, and I think the Titans are in desperate need of trying to correct some of their wrongs. Dalen says, "No shade from me, just mad. You're hour for morning trivia for a few months. I don't know what that is either. Morning trivia. Either way. MB says the media knows the fans shows, and the fan shows know the media shows. Again, I don't know what a lot of these comments mean. Maybe I'm missing some context here. But anyway, I think that there's a lot of stuff that gets thrown out there that you guys and us, without the full context, make definitive statements on that are not always accurate. And so I think there's a lot of different things that you have to look at and you have to consider as you're talking through all of these things. Now, as the Titans work their way through this, I don't want, let me tell you this on the front end. I do not want the Titans to hire Matt Nagy because Matt Nagy is not good for my business. Ultimately, I want something. John Harbaugh was my best case scenario because that's the most interesting to you. And it's the most interesting to me. And it's the most interesting thing to people elsewhere outside of Tennessee. And Tennessee does not matter in any meaningful way outside of Tennessee at this point in time. I want what is the best for the shows. And what ultimately is best for the shows is best for me. And maybe it's not best for you. But I like the engagement and I like the conversation and I like things that are interesting. Matt Nagy is not interesting. It's not interesting, but at all. Like honestly, Matt Nagy from from a content perspective is kind of my nightmare. But if he checks the most amount of boxes, this is the sacrifice that I'm willing to make for them to get back to it, just at least closer to 500 because they've never felt further away at this point in time. I am okay with taking a boring option if it ends up being the option that checks the most amount of boxes that make the most sense for this particular job. And I do think I have a little more. I wouldn't say a ton more because you guys are very informed about your favorite team. And that is something that I respect. Their fans have never been smarter than they are right now, which is something that I think is completely fair. With the amount of information that's available online and the amount of legwork that I think a lot of fans do. And I respect that because it's certainly a different environment than it's ever been. And I think that it challenges us to be a lot smarter about the things that we talk about. But I on this particular front am willing to say if it just makes the most sense here, and it's the thing that gets them closer back to where they want to be. It doesn't have to be the end all be all, guys. Like, I don't think this is going to be your coach for the rest of time, right? I just think you have to get back to a place where you're functional before you open that new stadium. And then if the Matt Nagy thing doesn't work out or whomever it might be, go get you the coach that will take you to the next level, right? Go find your Mike Vrabel to your Mike Mularkey, right? Mularkey did well enough. Vrabel took the thing to the next level. Did he ultimately get the job done? No, they didn't win a Super Bowl, but they got close, sure as hell closer than they would have had they kept Mike Mularkey in place at this point in time. So that's a lot of words to say I don't think the list needs defending. I just think that there's things about this that are a lot less sexy than you want them to be. But I will acknowledge, and I think most of you know that this is not that sexy of a job right now. And you just have to get back to baseline functional. DK on YouTube says, Bug doesn't want us to win. No, God, I desperately want you to win. You know how miserable my Sundays are these last 4 seasons where I spend 16 hours of my day a week traveling around the country, watching you get your shit kicked. Like, I don't want to do that. In fact, I'm thinking about putting it in my next contract when my deal's up in 2 years that I could, if they don't make the playoffs, that I can go cover playoff teams or playoff games for other teams. I'm so bored with this shit. I want you to win so badly because of how much of my life revolves around your football team. My mortgage. I had so much fun doing this. And listen, it's still the best job in the world, whether they're good or whether they're bad. But it's so much more fun when they're good. Guys, the best memories of my life are that 2019 playoff run. Like that forever changed the way that I felt about football. It's why I know that this is the thing that I wanted to do for the rest of my career. That I wanted to be around games because of how awesome that was to get to be along on the ride for. I'm just very critical of the things that they've done to get to this point. Again, I don't want to talk about my coverage of the team and how you guys think that I root or don't root or one way or the other. I'm just telling you, I promise you, I don't want you to suck this bad. What I want every year is 10-7. I want you to lose enough to where I have some controversy to talk about, because winning the whole way through is boring as hell too. Especially on a week by week basis. If you come in and you say, "Oh, okay, what can I nitpick here? Where's the drama?" and all these different things. But 10-7 is perfect, because 10-7 is good enough to get to playoffs. It's good enough to potentially make a run at that point in time. It's good enough to win the division or be a wild card, depending on which division you're in. But it also gives me a little bit of drama sprinkled in, so that I don't have just kind of a boring, well, they lose all the time or they win all the time type of season. I want 10-7 every year for the rest of the time. I promise you. What I don't want is what the hell these last 4 years have been. I swear to God. Curtis says, then help us get McDaniel, Buck. Y'all can vape together and talk. I'm not a vape guy. I'd prefer, I like to smoke the old fashioned way. But the McDaniel idea of it, right? Because he's not on my list, and we're going longer than I anticipated going tonight, but it's good conversation. I think you guys are compelled by it. I think that McDaniel is somebody who I am interested in and who I would be curious to see the dynamic. Now, that's like on face value, this is what I'm talking about definitive statements without full context. My thought process, my initial thought process would be to look at Chad Brinker and Mike Borgonzi on one side and look at Mike McDaniel on the other and be like, those are two very different types of people. How does that work together? Would that be on the same page? Does that accomplish the CEO leader type that Mike Borgonzi has stated that they need in this organization? A point with which I agree. But it also, I think the best thing that you can say about Mike McDaniel is that he obviously gets the best out of his offensive players that he is capable of getting. I think Mike McDaniel is the definition of a coach who maximizes their players. And you can look in that and say, well, what did he do with Tua this year? I would look at that and say that Tua did McDaniel with Tua did the best damn job that anybody could do with Tua Tagovailoa at this state of his career. I have tremendous respect for the mind that is Mike McDaniel. What I don't know, and this is the missing piece to this, is, okay, is he capable of doing all of the other CEO stuff? Because again, I remind you, this job is not just X's and O's. So that is the missing context of the Mike McDaniel thing. I shouldn't do this just based off looks, but also because there's been plenty of conversation about how much players do or do not respect the leadership qualities. I think they respect his football mind plenty. And I think more often than not, having dealt with players these last 10 years, I know more often than not that players will respect you if they just think you're putting them in the best position to succeed. Like they'll buy in if they think that you're there almost exclusively, to help them get better. And I think Mike McDaniel does a good deal of that. But that's one side of the ball, right? I don't know what he does for the defense. I don't know how he manages all the other elements of the game. He's never had necessarily like in game, like to the Callahan degree, right? Of, well, that should have been a play that you challenged on an Alec Iamander completion, or was it Gunnar Helm? It's been so long ago since we did the Denver game that I can't remember if it was Iamander or Helm that made a catch that was not called a catch on the field that the coach clearly could have challenged and didn't, and then got the rule wrong afterwards. Like, I haven't seen Mike McDaniel make that kind of in-game mistake. But and also talking to people who know him far better than I do. Cosell has, Curtis also brings up McDaniel at the install, which is the live show that I do with Greg Cosell every year. Cosell talks to all of these coaches. He flies around the country. He sits in meetings. He basically was a coach for the purposes of training camp this year for the Tennessee Titans. Sat in on every meeting, learned a lot from the quarterback rooms and all these different things. Greg's been doing this for, I don't know, 50 years at this point in time. Greg has tremendous amount of respect for the football mind that is Mike McDaniel. But I also just saw a guy who a lot of people have respect for his football mind in Brian Callahan. And I saw how much bigger this job was for Brian Callahan than just the X's and O's component of it. And I really, really think you just need somebody to steady this thing. Love the idea of McDaniel as a coordinator. I think best case scenario is that you get somebody that Mike McDaniel would be comfortable working with, to get him as an offensive coordinator. But I do think that it would be a tough sell for Mike McDaniel to pick this place as an OC over places like Detroit, Los Angeles with the Chargers, with Justin Herbert. Jaden Daniels in Washington is an interesting marriage of a veteran coach and Dan Quinn with a guy like Mike McDaniel. Like, I just like the idea he is somebody who is going to get head coaching opportunities, but that I wish was a career coordinator. I think that like, speaking of McDaniel, Josh McDaniels is the definition of that. I think that guy's a disaster head coach, but he's such a good offensive coordinator. I wish that some of these dudes would just stay coordinators, but that's not fair, right? You can't deny people career advancement just because you see them in a certain role and you think that a bigger role would promote them past the point of their competency. DK says we want a Ben Johnson type, and Ben Johnson's really good at this. If you haven't, P Kegs on YouTube says we want a Mike Vrabel type. Those two have a lot in common, and they're different, right? But they're also kind of the same. They're both assholes. Okay. And I don't know Ben Johnson. Obviously, I haven't worked with Ben Johnson, but I do know plenty of players on that roster. I do know plenty of people in the Chicago media. I do know what it's like to cover Mike Vrabel. And while Mike Vrabel is somebody who I have tremendous amount of respect for and who I believe is a good coach, he's also an asshole. He's also super aggressive. He's also super attacking in his philosophical approach. Ben Johnson is the offensive version of that kind of a coach. In fact, I think there's a great interview out there, and I've referenced this several times on the radio show. Before I get into this, let me remind you, I feel like I'm rambling for 45 minutes. Bert is so bored with this because I told him we were going to do 20 minutes tonight, and I'm at 47 so far. But I think this is an interesting conversation. We have so few of those anymore. The offseason is so much more interesting for the Titans than the regular season is, which I would love to get away from at some point in time. I would love for the football to matter more than the offseason. Well, before I talk about the similarities between those kind of types of people that you just compared, let me remind you that you can be the best version of yourself to dress for success. When you go to Simon Says Nashville, the premier men's clothing spot in Nashville is Simon Says, conveniently located in Wedgwood, Houston, in downtown or just south of downtown Nashville. Simon Says will equip you to succeed. They also have great discounts going on right now, and their 1-year anniversary party with all kind of great specials going on is in 9 days from now. Math is hard for me. On January the 24th in Wedgwood, Houston. SimonSaysNashville.com for more details. DK Coda says posh clothier. Clothier? Is that the right word? Yes, but not for the price. You would think that I only shop at expensive places. And they do have some things that are expensive, more expensive than others, but they have very cost-effective options. So you can look like you spent a lot of money on your clothes without spending a lot of money on your clothes. It's a really good deal. SimonSaysNashville.com. This is very much, somebody said, says where Mike McDaniel would shop. Yes, if you want to dress like Mike McDaniel, you can go to Simon Says Nashville for some of their stuff. Anyway, I hate that I did that there because now I've forgotten my train of thought. Aggressive. Ben Johnson. I like the example of Ben Johnson. Kevin Byard did a really good interview with Taylor and Will, Taylor Lewan and Will Compton, Busting with the Boys. And one, just because I miss talking to KB, and I had him his entire career here until he was traded away by Rand Carthon to Philadelphia, where I thought his career was over, and now he's leading the league in interception again with the Bears, which is crazy. I look at Kevin Byard, I enjoy Kevin Byard being interviewed, one, because I've done a lot of those interviews and KB's just a good talker. But he had a lot of good perspective on a couple of different things, having been somebody in Tennessee whose experience you all could relate to, but who's also having success in a way bigger market with a way bigger franchise than the Chicago Bears. And something Kevin Byard said, among many interesting things that Kevin Byard said, was the idea that Ben Johnson is a defensive-minded coach with an offensive-minded coach's skill set. In that, he is aggressive. He wants to dominate you. He is somebody who is, and I'm paraphrasing what Byard said here, but he is somebody who is pissed off if he doesn't score on every offensive possession. He's not a super, explosive guy on the sideline. That's where he's different from Vrabel. You see Vrabel, dapping everybody up as they come off the sidelines, telling everybody to jog off the field, coaching every position group up. Like Mike is different that way. He's way more involved in game. Whereas Ben Johnson is like this steely, silent type in game because he's focused on the process of calling plays, and he delegates to his staff to make sure that he can focus on the process of calling plays in game and has a support staff that he trusts. And it's worked really well in Chicago. But that mindset, that defensive coaching style mindset, while having the offensive coaching style skill set, I mean, how many coaches could you name like that? I think Steichen is one of those. I think Steichen's really good. I think that Sirianni is not as good of an X's and O's mind as those other two, but I think that he has a lot of those qualities that you like. Now, you may not like him, but you would like him actually, I don't know. Eagles fans don't really like him, but I think that's kind of a poor man's version of what you're talking about with Ben Johnson. I think that is not who Brian Callahan was in a couple of different departments. And I don't think that I don't think that makes him a bad offensive coordinator. It made him a really bad head coach on a couple of different fronts. So all that to say that you're looking for a mindset type as much as you are, because you can always hire a staff and you can do well with the staff hires or you can do poorly with the staff hires. Just because you don't hire an offensive-minded head coach doesn't mean that you won't get somebody competent to properly develop Cam Ward the way that he needs to be developed, right? You can still Ed Orgeron this thing, maybe not to that extreme, but where Ed Orgeron is not really respected as the X's and O's mind, but he's a good head coach when he has good coordinators, right? He can be a good head coach because it can let him do Ed Orgeron things and run a program while his offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator do the X's and O's grunt work to that extent. So I also think it's telling that Ben Johnson turned down an interview here, right? He's somebody who was requested for an interview here and turned it down. Now, that was different. That was Rand Carthon as a general manager. It was, them looking the way that they did without a franchise. I don't know that Cam Ward is a franchise quarterback. I know that he's a number one overall pick at quarterback, that you have to do everything within your power to help succeed. You need to turn that guy into a franchise quarterback or everybody's getting fired again, right? So I think that in a certain situation, you can get the head coaching hire right without it doing all of the things that you need a coaching staff to do. The delegation of this is as important as anything else. Ocho on YouTube says, Callahan came in here, hired his daddy and his best friend. Yeah, a lot of coaches do that. I mean, that you're going to have that everywhere you go. I know you guys pile on Vrabel for that with the internal hires that he made and some that worked, or rather the hires that he made that were based on relationships, where you may have rather him gone outside his box on that. So for every good hire that he made, I think there's also been a bad hire. I think you could say that about a lot of coaches, right? I think that Sirianni just did that with Kevin Patullo. They were running the same offense. Their offensive line just stopped working. Mike Vrabel hired Todd Downing, which was a bad idea. Mike Vrabel also got Dean Pease out of retirement, which was a really, really good idea. Mike Vrabel hired a offensive line coach. What was his name? Hoteling, which was probably not the best decision because the most experience that guy had was being a head coach of D3 Weber State or whatever it was. He also promoted Arthur Smith internally as a tight ends coach, where a lot of people could have easily looked over Arthur. And Arthur, at least with Tennessee, Arthur Smith coordinated the most successful offense in the history of Titans football, right? Arthur was a quote unquote buddy hire, right? They work. a lot of times. It's also very common for NFL people to go with places that they're comfortable with. Ryan brings up another interesting one. And again, we're going to cut this off at an hour because I feel like at a certain point I'm just rambling. And while I do think that those conversations are productive and most of you seem interested in this, I want to make sure that we save stuff because we've got a lot more time to go in this coaching search. And I don't want to do all of these random topics tonight because I feel like I've been all over the place and just kind of, we're just kind of having a conversation as opposed to me doing a point by point show. He says, hired Tim Kelly. So I'm assuming when you say hired Tim Kelly, that's a bad thing. Tim is an interesting figure in this because Tim was also the offensive coordinator of the New York Giants this year after Mike Kafka got promoted. And I don't think that Tim Kelly did a really good job in Houston, but he also had a lot better players, right? So was Tim Kelly bad here because Tim Kelly was bad? Or was Tim Kelly bad here because he didn't have prime DeAndre Hopkins? He didn't have good offensive line play. That was arguably the worst offensive line play that the Titans have had in any stretch. That was that Andre Dillard? Or was that, that would have been Andre Dillard. So he had Andre Dillard at left tackle and that collection of offensive linemen that is arguably the worst unit they've ever fielded. I don't know what to do with Tim specifically. Because I do think that there are some good elements of Tim, and I also think that Tim, I think it would be easy to make excuses for Tim because of how badly they were from a personnel standpoint. I just think that there's so much, guys, that goes into the idea of, well, if you just don't have the players to run a lot of this shit, you got to condense your playbook, and all of a sudden you're super predictable and super ineffective. Philadelphia. I don't think Kevin Patullo did that bad of a job, much worse than Kellen Moore did. I just think the Eagles' offensive line got appreciably worse. They were a top 3 unit, and all of a sudden they're a bottom 3 unit. Ryan says he was a buddy hire. Brother, the vast majority of them are buddy hires. Like you can make that accusation of every NFL head coach in the league. Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay's entire coaching tree are buddies. They're all friends. Don't McVay and Shanahan and Chris Sims have like tattoos that they all got drunk one night? Like the entire league is buddy hires. And then you want to hire the buddies of those guys who have success because you want something that's been close to all of those things. I think that you get too caught up in that idea. I think some of it's fair because it can gloss off. Like, I think some of it is fair. This is what I'm saying about like not putting all of the stock in what you guys think as fans. Like you have to acknowledge that the entire league is trying to hire the buddies of Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan because they think that they can get even close to Kyle Shanahan or Sean McVay just by proximity. Oh, that guy was in that system? Man, let's go get me one of them. It is what it is. Dalen with a good comment here. Buddy hires are only looked at poorly when they suck, but it's a positive when it can land you a good coordinator. Exactly. I could not possibly have said it. You said it so much more concisely than I just did. I just spent 58 minutes trying to say what you said in 2 sentences. I think that's how you have to keep that context in mind when you're talking about these things. Is it bad because it's a buddy hire? Or is it bad because there's a lot of different context that has to be taken into account? And can that buddy do better in a different circumstance? Probably so. So David says, Buck, next week, try to get Amy on the show. Let her know we want her to speak. Yeah, that's never going to happen. I know Amy Adams Strunk listens to the radio show, and I know she doesn't like me, which I don't blame her. I don't blame her at all. And I've never had I don't know. Me and Amy have had very, very limited interactions and almost always in passing, right? And she's never been anything but kind and nice in the very superficial conversations that we've had. And again, I would hardly even call them conversations, just like, oh yeah, you do a great job, this, that, and the other. And she's on to the next because she got security around him and all these different things. But I know she listens to the radio show, and I know she has considered my commentary to be more personal than she thinks is necessary. And she and I have not had this conversation. Maybe we'll have the opportunity to talk at owners meetings. Although I didn't even see her. I mean, she was there obviously, but I didn't even see her at owners meetings in Palm Beach this past year. But if I got the opportunity to have just an honest conversation with her, not even on the record, I'd be like, Amy, it's not these these comments and my criticisms are not personal; they're professional. Um, Professional in the sense that I, maybe you don't think that they are. I don't know how to contextualize what I'm trying to say. That you take them personally because this is your thing, right? This is your entire life since you were a child and the daughter of Bud Adams, right? The founder of the Tennessee Titans Houston Oilers organization. Like I get that that's your entire life and you would take any criticisms of that personally because I don't think that she's a bad person or anything like that. I don't think that she's not trying to win or something like that, but I think she's done a really shitty job in the last couple of years. And also the people that she's tasked with working on her behalf have done an even shittier job. And then at a certain point, that's your responsibility. And she's an adult. She, of course, knows this, I think. But it's hard not to take offense to as hard as me or anybody else who is critical of the Tennessee Titans, who is as and as I'm pretty strident anyway. I would imagine that I'm very. If you didn't want to like me, I imagine that I'm very easy to dislike. I'm sure many of you people share that same opinion. But yeah, I can't imagine that. I don't think Amy's comfortable talking publicly. Like I really think that that's at the core of why she does not do these media availabilities. And I don't know that. Well, I've had plenty of people over there tell me that she has. I wouldn't say a fear of public speaking necessarily, but that she doesn't consider it a strength, and so she'd prefer to not do it. So that's her right. I don't think me on the radio show is the kind of environment you would want to be in if you are not somebody who is super comfortable speaking publicly, especially when you don't do a lot of it to begin with, and all of a sudden I put a live microphone in your face and be like, "All right, so how'd you get all this shit wrong?" It'd be a tough sell. Now, in fairness, I've never asked because I know that she doesn't. I know that she does. I know that she listens, but that she does not enjoy the radio program. So maybe it's worth asking. We can do this at owners meetings potentially. If there's an opportunity where I get a chance to talk to her at the party that they do every year at owners meetings, which I feel like I see a fair amount of owners, not Amy. But even like just wandering the halls during the day where all the coaches are making the rounds and all the different media people and GMs are making the rounds. I feel like I feel like I would. It's not that big of a hotel that we wouldn't run into her at some point, but I didn't even see her once last year. Now, she also did leave owners meetings to fly to Miami to go meet with Cam Ward in person, which was a big part of the pre-draft process last year, and ultimately that's a good thing. So, if she's at she was not at Mike Borgonzi's introductory press conference. Maybe she will be at the next head coaches. She was at Cam Ward's introductory press conference once they drafted him with the number 1 overall pick, but obviously she does not take questions in that setting. Okay. That was a lot. That was an hour and 3 minutes of just, us doing shit off the cuff. Like I have no notes in front of me other than the things that we have covered tonight. And I know we went all over the place and we're very, very disjointed in how we got there. But I thought it was a fun conversation. And I hope you have more of these here in the coming months. Bert's half asleep, so I'm going to have to let him go enjoy the rest of his evening because he has a move that he has to prepare for. And also I need him to be somewhat in tune and focused for the radio show tomorrow. So I like that. Vernon says, thanks for this fireside chat. It was more a fireside chat tonight than it was an actual primetime show. Had we done the bounce back, we can do the bounce back since Bergman found a video. Robert, how do you want to tease? You want to wake yourself up? What are you eating right now? Do you want to tease this bounce back thing? You want to strap your what do I even call it? Your half a headset to your face and wrap something up before I go for another hour and 4 minutes?
I'm eating olives.
Just and olives out of the jar?
Oh yeah, most of my kitchen stuff is at the new house, and I'm kind of just eating out of the pantry. And then I found this cigar cutter that I hadn't used, and I've been cutting them into little snack-sized bites and kind of just eating and watching you.
I'm glad. Have we kept you entertained at all, or have I bored you out of your skull?
Well, you're good because I have another 21 minutes until Traders comes on. So,
what's the bounce back video?
Oh, damn, that's right. We got to do some work stuff. So Mike McDaniel did a little dirty. Oh, you kicked me out. Did a little dirty. So the rumor was he got interrupted doing a player's exit interview by Stephen Ross saying, I need to talk to you now. And so he just had to end Darren Waller's personnel meeting. And here he was on Johnny Manziel's podcast talking about this.
Wild year front to back. I mean, I was at the scene of the crime, bro. I think I was the last person that saw him before he got fired, bro. Like, my exit meeting was that Thursday morning from 9:30 to 10. So I get there for my my exit meeting, and we're talking for like 10 minutes, and he's like, yeah, like, definitely want you back next year. And we're just like reflecting on the year and things that he was thinking about doing different in the upcoming year. And then Stephen Ross kicked the door in at like 9:42. And he comes in, like, joins the conversation. We're just all talking, reflecting on the year. And Stephen Ross is like, well, hey, you back next year, this, that, and the third. And then the conversation kind of hits a lull, and I'm sitting across the desk from Mike, and Stephen Ross is standing there just kind of looking at me like,
it's time for you to get the hell out.
I looked at Mike. He was like, we'll finish this conversation later, because I didn't know they had the GM search was in full flow. I didn't know what they had big business talk about. Like, we already really done here. We just powwowing. And so I go out to the meeting, I go downstairs and get a massage. I come up from the massage, check my phone, he's fired. And I'm like, damn,
Wow.
like, this shit cold for real.
I guess.
Got his ass.
That's awful. Can you imagine being Darren Waller in that situation? Like that, and that's the crazy thing. Like, they never put any statement out definitively on Mike McDaniel. So I guess if they didn't, like, one way or the other until they fired him, I guess you have to just go about your business like you're going to prepare for the next season. And it sounds like that's what he was doing. And then they fired him.
But I would be doing exactly what Darren Waller did. Darren Waller, they're like, yeah, we definitely want your old ass back. And he's like, well, I'm gonna go use the facilities. He went downstairs and got a massage. They ain't even playing no more. He's like, hell with it. He's like, I'm gonna spin by the cafeteria, pick me up a little snack, some cookies.
Get a to-go box, get the massage on the way out the door. We'll see you out there.
Like, hey, that dude is doing it right. That's exactly what I'd be doing. I'd be going back through the locker room, seeing who left some shit. I mean, like, Dolphins worn apparel. I'd be selling everybody shit. I'd be a terrible teammate.
Well, you would be.
Are you alluding that I am a bad teammate?
No, I would say you're a significantly better teammate than I am.
Yeah, well, there you go. All right, copy that, Roger.
Take somebody's order at Burger King. That's going to do it for us tonight after an hour and 7 minutes. I couldn't tell you last time we did that long of a primetime show, but I genuinely enjoyed the conversation. Thank you guys for providing us thought-provoking commentary throughout. We will be back for 3 hours on the radio show tomorrow. Brett Kern will be there. We'll do divisional round picks. And, well, I guess we won't do national championship picks. I won't be on the show on Monday because I'm flying to Miami on Monday for the national championship game Monday night. I will be back so we won't do primetime Monday. We will do a primetime Sunday night show. So I guess I can reconvene with you guys at a later date. Thank you all as always. I really do appreciate the way that you guys show up and hang out with us and the dynamic that we have back and forth. It's one of the reasons why I keep doing primetime. By the way, maybe this is not my news to announce, but my contract is up with A to Z at Super Bowl, and we have agreed that I am going to come back for another year at least with A to Z on my contract. So we're very happy about that. I've still got 2 more years on the radio show. Maybe Austin and Zach can I don't think that they need to put out like anything other than I'm going to continue to do primetime for the foreseeable future, but. We had a very productive meeting the other day about it. I love and respect the work that Austin and Zach have done. And honest to God, you guys know this because you're a part of this community. And I swear to God, I'll wrap it up after this because I want to let Berg get on with his day. But I do this. This is going to sound like an asshole. I don't need to do this anymore, like A to Z. But I love working for Austin and Zach. I love working with Austin and Zach. I was their first full-time employee. I have so much respect for the way that they've grown this business. I've seen it from when we were doing shows in Austin Stanley's grandparents' above garage apartment for the first couple of years. Those guys have been nothing but awesome and supportive. I don't have a career without them. So I'm eternally grateful to them. I'm eternally grateful for the community that they've built for you guys. And I'm so happy to be back for another year doing it with you. So we will look forward to continuing to do all of these things. And as more information on the Titans coaching search becomes available, we will keep you updated with the latest. See you tomorrow morning on the radio show, 10 a.m.
I mean, we keep